war on drugs has entered a new era. Cartels, once smugglers with crude tricks, now wield advanced technology that slips past borders and even strikes back. But their confidence shattered when the United States unleashed the mother of all bombs on a hidden drug lab. The blast was a message of unmatched power. The question is, can cartel firepower ever stand against such destruction? Join us as we uncover how America's deadliest bomb tore through the cartel's strongest defenses. In recent years, the northwestern Mexican state of Sinaloa has been caught in what looks less like a police problem and more like a war zone. Rival wings of the Sinaloa cartel, one of the most powerful criminal syndicates on the planet, have been locked in a brutal fight for control. Streets, highways, and even rural villages have turned into battlegrounds where ambushes, roadblocks, and running gunfights are common. The Mexican government has tried to hit back hard. Security forces have swept through Sinaloa since last October, arresting more than 1,500 suspected cartel members. Yet despite these efforts, the violence has not slowed. Mexico as a whole remains under the shadow of cartel power, where heavily armed groups wield more influence than police in entire regions. Across the border, the United States has been watching closely. For years, President Donald Trump threatened to involve the U.S. military directly in the fight against Mexican cartels. Washington has already gone so far as to label the Sinaloa cartel and several other organizations as foreign terrorist groups. Covert surveillance has been ramped up as well. Reports suggest the CIA has been flying drones over Mexican airspace to map fentanyl labs, weapons routes, and command hubs used by these networks. Now, what once sounded like a bluff is inching toward reality. Trump has reportedly signed a directive authorizing the use of military force against the cartels. Inside the Pentagon, planners are sketching out what such an operation might look like. Thousands of extra U.S. troops have been sent into the waters surrounding Latin America and the Caribbean, a move that military observers read as both a show of strength and a pre-positioning of forces. The news rattled officials in Mexico City. They had believed that negotiations with Washington were moving towards some kind of joint security pact. Instead, they learned through reports that unilateral strikes might be coming. Mexico's president, Claudia Sheinbaum, drew a hard line. Speaking on August 11th, she declared, "We will never, ever allow the U.S. Army or any other institution of the United States to set foot in Mexican territory." After more than 2 decades covering these wars, many analysts argue that an American attack won't solve the problem. The cartels are no longer just Mexican gangs. They are sprawling, transnational networks. They run drug pipelines, extortion rackets, human trafficking rings, and money laundering schemes that stretch far beyond Mexico's borders. A few drone strikes or commando raids would do little more than scratch the surface, while also triggering a diplomatic firestorm with Mexico. Cooperation, not confrontation, has always been the key to weakening such groups. Still, hawks in Washington see things differently. To them, hitting Mexican cartels is not only justified, but overdue. Senator Tom Cotton of Arkansas declared that Mexican cartels are just as deadly and ruthless as foreign terrorist groups. That thinking reframes the cartel fight as a continuation of the global war on terror. If al-Qaeda and the Taliban could be targeted by drones and special operations forces, then why not the Sinaloa cartel? The comparison is striking. During the war on terror, the U.S. military carried out thousands of drone strikes across Afghanistan, Pakistan, and other regions. The most famous raid, of course, was the Navy SEAL assault in Abbottabad in 2011 that killed Osama bin Laden. These missions weakened networks like al-Qaeda and ISIS, though the larger wars in Iraq and Afghanistan ended in failure. Unlike foreign extremist groups that fight for ideology, Mexican cartels fight for money, and they have a lot of it. These criminal armies thrive not on religion or politics, but on the vast profits of the black market. Their biggest prize is the American drug trade, which in 2017 alone was valued at more than $150 billion. Add to that billions more from human smuggling, stolen fuel, and extortion, and you begin to see why cartels can operate almost like shadow governments. With this kind of funding, they recruit and pay thousands of gunmen, bribe local officials, and build influence across Mexico. This wealth also makes them unusually resilient. A recent 2023 study in Science found that cartels have become one of Mexico's largest employers, feeding families in regions where the state provides little. Unlike guerrilla groups that collapse when their leaders are removed, cartels often splinter. When top bosses are captured or killed, smaller, more violent factions rise from the ashes, escalating chaos rather than ending it. The latest example is unfolding inside the Sinaloa cartel itself. In July of 2024, a son of Joaquin El Chapo Guzman reportedly betrayed Ismael El Mayo Zambada, a veteran drug lord and rival within the cartel. According to reports, Zambada was tricked onto a plane, flown to New Mexico, and handed over to U.S. authorities. Far from stabilizing the region, the move ignited a brutal struggle for control of the cartel's billion-dollar empire, proving again that surgical captures rarely bring peace. While this was happening, a rare window of cooperation had opened between Washington and Mexico City. Since taking power in October, Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum has worked closely with U.S. agencies, focusing joint operations on fentanyl labs, smuggling routes, and high-value targets. That partnership delivered results. Fentanyl seizures at the U.S. border dropped by more than half, and just last week, Mexico extradited 26 cartel figures to the United States. But threats of unilateral American military strikes now risk tearing that alliance apart. Mexican leaders know that civilian casualties from drone strikes or raids would spark nationalist outrage and make it politically impossible to keep working with Washington. The danger isn't only tactical but strategic. Losing Mexico's cooperation would cripple efforts against cartels in the long run. Defeating these organizations will require more than fast raids and airstrikes. It demands a campaign that attacks cartels on both sides of the border. Mexico must confront corruption and dismantle the political protection that allows cartels to flourish. Meanwhile, Washington must target the roots of cartel power inside its own territory, reducing drug demand, choking off money laundering networks, and stopping the southbound flow of American firearms that arm cartel gunmen. This is not the first time U.S. forces have eyed operations inside Mexico. In 1916, the United States deployed thousands of soldiers under General John Pershing to hunt down Pancho Villa after his cross-border raid in New Mexico. Villa escaped, but Washington still declared the mission a success. The true goal, Secretary of War Newton D. Baker said, was not Villa himself, but projecting American power into unstable territory. That same reasoning fuels today's hawks who demand action against the cartels. For them, it's less about dismantling criminal empires and more about demonstrating strength. A strike on a fentanyl lab might provide a dramatic headline and a political win, but it will not unravel the sprawling networks that cartels command. Nor will it dry up the endless river of American dollars that keeps them armed and expanding. And yet, the failure of quick fixes doesn't make the threat any less severe. What the U.S. confronts is not just a drug problem, but a powerful enemy that resembles the most dangerous insurgent groups of recent history. The United States today faces an enemy that rivals some of the most dangerous terrorist groups of the past 2 decades. Analysts often compare Mexico's cartels to ISIS in the Middle East. Both are non-state actors that control territory, run armies of fighters, and openly challenge governments. But unlike ISIS, the cartels are motivated purely by profit, not ideology, which makes them flexible and endlessly adaptable. One of the most striking developments is the way cartels have innovated on the battlefield. Long before many militias in other regions, Mexican groups began weaponizing drones. They have rigged quadcopters to drop grenades, and in some cases even modified them to carry rocket-propelled grenade warheads. These small, inexpensive machines have been used to terrorize rivals and defend smuggling routes. For a fraction of the cost of military hardware, cartels have created an effective air threat that can bypass walls, checkpoints, and roadblocks. On the other side, the United States military brings unmatched technology. Intelligent aircraft like the MQ-9 Reaper drone or the Boeing P-8 Poseidon can cover enormous stretches of territory and intercept signals deep inside enemy networks. The U.S. also dominates the domain of communications warfare. Its ability to monitor, decrypt, and track cell phones gives it an edge that cartels could never match. With these tools, American forces could map cartel command structures, track shipments, and even follow high-value targets in real time. But if the skies over Mexico already feel relentless, they may not have seen the heaviest weapon in America's arsenal yet. The so-called mother of all bombs, the largest non-nuclear explosive ever used in combat, has already left its mark overseas. The question now is chilling. If the U.S. were willing to drop such a weapon on hardened targets before, what chance would a cartel drug lab have if it ever faced that kind of fury? The fight against the cartels has reached a new and dangerous stage, one that leaves no room for hiding in tunnels, compounds, or remote jungles. The U.S. has begun testing the limits of its arsenal, and among the weapons that cast the longest shadow is the infamous GBU 4343/B Massive Ordnance Air Blast Bomb, better known by the name it earned in military circles and headlines alike, the mother of all bombs. The Moab is not an ordinary bomb. It is the largest non-nuclear weapon ever used by the United States, a monster weighing nearly 22,000 pounds. The GBU 43/B Massive Ordnance Air Blast is one of the most powerful weapons ever created outside the nuclear category. Designed by Albert L. Weimorts Jr. of the Air Force Research Laboratory, the bomb was first tested in 2003. At that time, it was considered the strongest non-nuclear weapon in the United States military arsenal, a title that captured global attention. The MOAB was specially built to be dropped from a C-130 Hercules aircraft, mainly the MC-130E Combat Talon 1 or the MC-130H Combat Talon 2. Its purpose was to unleash a massive blast capable of wiping out hardened targets and sending shockwaves strong enough to destroy tunnels, bunkers, and enemy hideouts. The bomb's nickname, Mother of All Bombs, drew inspiration from a phrase once used by Saddam Hussein during the Gulf War in 1991, when he spoke of the mother of all battles. That phrase stuck in history, later reimagined to describe this enormous weapon. Though it was tested in the early 2000s, the Moab remained unused in real battle for years. That changed on the 13th of April, 2017. On that day, the United States military deployed the bomb in Afghanistan against an Islamic State, Khorasan Province tunnel complex in the Asian district. The strike sent shockwaves across the world, not only for its destructive force, but also for the message it carried, that the U.S. was willing to unleash its most fearsome non-nuclear weapon when necessary. Reports described the ground shaking as if struck by an earthquake. Unlike a precision strike aimed at a single room or vehicle, the MOAB is designed to erase everything in its blast radius: buildings, bunkers, weapons, and the will to resist. Its destructive power sends a message as much as it causes devastation. There is no safe haven. One interesting fact is that unlike nuclear arms, this bomb does not require presidential authorization for use. It is, however, one of the deadliest non-nuclear weapons ever built. Measuring roughly 30 feet in length and weighing more than 21,000 pounds, the bomb is guided by GPS and delivered from the cargo doors of an MC-130 transport plane. Once released, it slides from a pallet, steadied by a parachute, before its four lattice fins steer it into position. The MOAB's power lies in its massive blast wave. Packed with 18,000 pounds of TNT inside a thin aluminum casing, it creates an explosion said to stretch nearly 1 mile in every direction. The weapon is specifically designed to obliterate underground facilities, collapse tunnel systems, and terrify enemies who may be hiding below the earth. Though it was originally developed during the Iraq War at a staggering cost of about $16 million each, the bomb had never been used in battle until this moment. The first tests occurred in 2003 at Eglin Air Force Base in Florida, where footage of its detonation showed the kind of destruction that only such a massive air blast could create. For the cartels, who have long relied on sprawling jungle labs, hidden warehouses, and fortified compounds, the threat of the MOAB changes the equation. Drones and smaller bombs may disrupt operations, but the mother of all bombs does something more. It terrifies. It is not just a tool of destruction, but one of psychological warfare, reminding enemies that the U.S. has options that go far beyond raids and seizures. Imagine a cartel stronghold, thought to be secure, suddenly disappearing in a single explosion that leaves behind nothing but smoke and silence. But the question remains: destruction of cartel labs aside, Can the cartels handle that kind of force? History suggests they thrive on adaptation. When authorities crack down on cocaine routes, they shift to fentanyl. When smuggling across borders becomes harder, they build tunnels. When leaders are captured, others quickly rise to fill the gap. Their empire has survived decades of pressure because it is built on flexibility and fearlessness. Yet even the most hardened networks must pause when confronted with a weapon like the MOAB. However, the mother of all bombs is not likely to become a daily weapon in the drug war. It is far too massive and politically sensitive for routine use. But its existence hangs like a storm cloud, a reminder that when the U.S. decides to send a message, it has the tools to make that message unforgettable. For the cartels, the lesson is clear. Their empire may not be as indestructible as they believe. And yet the Moab does not hold the title of America's heaviest non-nuclear weapon, which means that the cartel has more than the mother of all bombs to be terrified of. That honor belongs to the massive ordnance penetrator, a colossal 30,000-pound bunker buster designed to drill through reinforced targets before unleashing devastation. The United States recently dropped more than a dozen giant bunker buster bombs on Fordo and Natanz. These were not ordinary weapons. Among them was the GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrator. Each one weighs about 13.5 tons and is designed to tear through even the strongest underground defenses. Bunker busters are bombs built for one purpose: destroying heavily protected facilities hidden deep beneath the earth. Normal bombs explode on the surface, releasing force outward, but bunker busters work differently. They are built to drive themselves into the ground before detonating, pushing their full explosive power downward into the soil and concrete, reaching places other bombs cannot. The MOP is the largest bunker buster in America's arsenal, and apart from nuclear weapons, the most powerful of its kind anywhere in the world. It weighs around 13.5 tons, and under the right conditions can pierce as much as 60 meters of reinforced ground. The exact number of these bombs that exist is not public, but estimates suggest America may have only around 20. Some reports claim that as many as 14 were used in these recent strikes, meaning a large portion of the entire stockpile may have been deployed in just this one operation. Now imagine the impact this would have in ending the war against drugs. Yet there are serious obstacles. Unlike Afghanistan or Iraq, Mexico is a sovereign neighbor, and U.S. forces would almost certainly need the permission of Mexico City to act. Without that green light, open military actions such as drone strikes or air raids would risk sparking a diplomatic crisis. Even if the Mexican government agreed, the cartels have deeply infiltrated state institutions. From local police to high-level officials, cartel networks have eyes and ears everywhere. Any planned strike might be leaked before it begins, allowing bosses to slip away and leaving American forces striking shadows. Because of these challenges, many experts believe that a conventional campaign of bombs and drones is unlikely. Instead, the most realistic scenario would be a covert war, a series of surgical operations carried out by U.S. Special Operations Forces. These units thrive in environments where intelligence is key and precision is more valuable than brute force. As one veteran noted, 4 operators with a radio can bring more firepower than an entire company of riflemen. By calling in air support or guiding precision munitions, small teams could disrupt cartel operations with minimal footprint. But even special operations have limits. Raids can capture or kill targets, but unless the larger networks are dismantled, new leaders will emerge. That raises the ultimate question: what does victory against the cartels even look like? Unlike traditional wars, there is no capital city to seize, no conventional army to defeat in the field. Cartels are decentralized, Hydra-like, and supported by the massive American demand for narcotics. Destroying one head only causes 2 more to grow back. Thanks for watching. While you are still here, click on the link on your screen to check out another of our videos. See you there.